When we think about cybersecurity, our minds usually jump straight to things like complex passwords, or maybe two-factor authentication. But what if I told you the strongest digital defenses, the real fortresses, aren't built on those things? They're built on a handful of simple but really powerful ideas. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the actual blueprint security pros use to make systems safe from the ground up. And make no mistake, the stakes here are incredibly high. This isn't just about someone getting into your email. As this policy points out, we're talking about one of the most serious challenges of our time. It affects literally everything, from our personal privacy all the way up to national security and the global economy. So, why is it such a huge challenge? Well, because the modern threat landscape is just vast and complicated. The attackers can be anywhere in the world, and they're often completely anonymous. They could be after money, they could be after state secrets, and their targets can be any one of us, big companies or even entire governments. So how in the world do you defend against that? It's definitely not as simple as just buying the latest antivirus software. Real security means looking at the whole picture. It's a mix of three things: technology, yeah, the firewalls and encryption, but also the people who use the systems and the processes they're supposed to follow. If any one of those three is weak, if your people aren't trained or the rules are ignored, then honestly, the best tech in the world isn't going to save you. And that leads us to this really crucial shift in how security experts think today. Instead of constantly playing defense, always reacting to the latest attack, the goal is to get out ahead of them. It's all about designing our systems with defense baked in from the very start. This quote right here absolutely nails it. For way too long, security was treated like a quick coat of paint you slap on at the very end. But here's the thing, you can't just bolt on security later. It has to be part of the foundation, woven right into the DNA of a system from the moment it's just an idea on a whiteboard. Let's just break that down. The old way, the reactive way, was basically a never-ending game of whack-a-mole. You find a security hole, you patch it. You find another, you patch it. The new proactive approach is all about preventing those holes from ever existing. It's really the difference between constantly plugging leaks in a faulty dam versus engineering a dam that's solid from day one. Okay, so how do we actually do that? How do you build security in? Well, there's a blueprint for it. It's a set of core design principles, these time-tested rules for building systems that can actually defend themselves. Let's dig into them. First up, and you could argue this is the most powerful principle of them all, is least privilege. The idea is so simple but so effective. Any person or any piece of software should only have the absolute bare minimum permissions it needs to do its job. Nothing more. I mean, think about it this way. If you have someone house sitting, you're not going to give them the master key that opens every single room, the car, and the safe, right? Of course not. You give them the key to the front door, and that's it. Least privilege is just applying that same common sense to our digital world. That way, if an attacker gets control of an account, the damage they can do is incredibly limited. All right, next we've got fail-safe defaults. This one's all about making sure the default answer to any request is no. You only get access if there's a specific rule that says yes, you're allowed. In other words, every door is locked by default, not left wide open. A perfect analogy is a fortress gate. That gate is always closed and locked. The guards don't have a list of people to keep out. No, they have a very short, very specific list of people to let in. If you're not on that list, you're not getting in. Simple as that. This stops so many accidental security mistakes. Then we have defense in depth. The big idea here is that you should never, ever rely on just one single thing to protect you. Instead, you build layers of security, kind of like the walls of a medieval castle. If the bad guys get past the outer wall, they still have to deal with the moat, and then the inner wall, and then the guards. So what do those castle walls look like in the digital world? Well, you've got your network firewall as the outer wall, blocking the most obvious attacks. But if something sneaks past that, you've got system access controls as the inner wall. And if that fails and they grab some data, encryption makes sure that data is just useless gibberish. And finally, you have security auditing, which is like the guard up in the tower, watching for anything suspicious and sounding the alarm. Every layer backs up the others. Now, this next one might sound a little bit backward at first. It's called economy of mechanism. Basically, it means that when it comes to security, simple is almost always better and stronger than complex. Why? Well, because the more complex a system is, the more hidden nooks and crannies there are for mistakes to hide. They're just a nightmare to test properly. Just think about a good, solid deadbolt on a door. There are very few ways it can break. Now, compare that to a super complex smart lock with a keypad, batteries, Wi-Fi, and an app. Each one of those things is another potential point of failure, another way for an attacker to get in. Keeping things simple makes them stronger. And finally, there's a principle I think we can all relate to: psychological acceptability. This one acknowledges a fundamental truth: security only works if people actually use it. If your security system is super annoying or makes it impossible to get your job done, guess what? People will find a way around it. And that's the bottom line, isn't it? You can design the most amazing digital fortress the world has ever seen, but if people find the locks too frustrating to use, they'll just prop the door open with a chair to make their lives easier. The most advanced protection in the world is completely useless if nobody uses it. Security has to be usable. Okay, so these principles all sound pretty good in theory, right? But what do they actually look like out in the real world? Let's check out some actual security guidelines and see how these big ideas show up in practice every single day. Take a look at this rule for firewalls. Deny traffic by default and only allow specific things. Does that sound familiar? Yep, that is a perfect textbook example of fail-safe defaults. That's our Fortress Gate, right there in a government document. Or how about this one, for the apps on your phone? It says an app should only ask for permissions it absolutely needs to function. So when that new calculator app you downloaded asks for access to your contacts and your microphone, that's a huge violation of this rule. This is the principle of least privilege in action. And whenever you see a whole strategy that pulls together a bunch of different tactics like this, now you know what you're looking at. This is defense in depth. It's not just a firewall, it's a firewall, plus separating your network, plus intrusion prevention, plus strong passwords. It's all about those layers, working together to create a defense that's truly tough to break. So when you start to put all of these principles together, a bigger picture starts to emerge. It becomes really clear that good security isn't just about a list of products you buy. It's a fundamental way of thinking, a mindset. If you walk away with just one thing today, let it be this: you can't buy great security off the shelf. You have to build it. It isn't a checklist of firewalls or antivirus software. It's a way of thinking that gets deliberately and thoughtfully designed into a system from the very, very beginning. And that brings me to a final question, something for you to think about. As you go about your own digital life, which one of these principles, least privilege, defense in depth, fail-safe defaults, is the one that's maybe missing most from your own habits? Thinking about that might just be the best first step you can take to being more secure.